Hello, and welcome to today's lesson on the precautions taken to minimize irradiation hazards. Today, we will discuss 5 different techniques used to minimize irradiation hazards. First, we will discuss the importance of using appropriate protective equipment, such as gloves and lab coats. Then we will explore how increasing distance from a radioactive source can reduce the risk of exposure. Next, we will understand the necessity of storing radioactive materials in shielded containers before moving on to the benefits of regularly monitoring radiation levels to ensure safety. We'll finish with why providing training and education to personnel handling radioactive materials is essential for safety. So far, we have explored the hazards of radioactive contamination and irradiation. You have learned about the nature of these hazards and their potential risks to health and safety. Building on this understanding of hazards, we can now delve into the specific precautions that must be taken to minimize irradiation risks. When working with radioactive materials, it's essential to handle them with utmost caution. This involves using appropriate protective equipment such as gloves and lab coats. Gloves create a barrier that prevents direct contact with radioactive substances, while lab coats protect your clothing and skin from contamination. Following these protective measures helps minimize the risk of coming into direct contact with radioactive materials, thereby reducing potential internal contamination. One of the fundamental principles in radiation safety is maintaining a safe distance from radioactive sources. The intensity of radiation decreases significantly as you increase your distance from the source. Mathematically, this can be explained by something called the inverse square law, which states that the radiation intensity is inversely proportional to the square of the distance from the source. Essentially, the law implies that by doubling the distance from a radioactive source, you reduce your exposure by a factor of 4. Staying as far away as practical from the radioactive material is a key strategy in radiation protection. Another critical precaution is the secure storage of radioactive materials. When not in use, radioactive substances should be kept in properly shielded containers. These containers are typically made of materials like lead or concrete, which are highly effective at blocking radiation. Shielding prevents the escape of radiation into the surrounding environment, thereby protecting individuals from exposure. Proper storage is crucial to ensure that radioactive substances do not pose a hazard when not being actively used. Regular monitoring of radiation levels in the environment where radioactive materials are present is crucial for maintaining safety. This involves using devices like Geiger counters or dosimeters to continuously measure radiation levels. By keeping track of these levels, you can ensure that they stay within safe limits set by regulatory authorities. It also helps in promptly identifying any unusual increases in radiation, allowing for immediate corrective actions to be taken. Providing adequate training and education to personnel working with radioactive materials is paramount. Workers should be well versed in handling procedures, safety protocols, and emergency response measures. Training sessions often include practical demonstrations and simulations to prepare individuals for real-life scenarios. Well-informed personnel are better equipped to follow safety guidelines and respond effectively in case of an incident, significantly reducing the risk of irradiation hazards. In today's lesson, we focused on recognizing examples of precautions taken to minimize irradiation hazards in the context of radioactive contamination. By understanding these precautions, we aim to minimize the risks associated with irradiation and ensure safe handling of radioactive substances. This knowledge is vital for anyone working in environments where radioactive materials are present, helping to protect both individuals and the surrounding environment.